Okay, hello, welcome to Digital Marketing Canada, episode number 2, and I'm your host, Andrew Schiestel from TBK Creative. If you're a marketer, an executive, or a CEO with a medium-sized organization, you've come to the right podcast, and I'm going to explain why. The purpose of Digital Marketing Canada is to help you master the web and grow your revenue. I do this by consistently interviewing marketers, executives, and CEOs of successful medium-sized organizations. And I get into this very rich, detailed conversation. And we really unpack how they use the web to grow their business. And then I'm able to pass and share this knowledge on to you. Today is no other for this episode. I bring on Tony Gareri, the CEO and Chief of WOW at Roma Moulding. Roma Moulding is one of the world's largest privately held picture molding manufacturers with 4 offices throughout North America, approximately 150 employees, and a dealer network of about 5,000 independent companies. Tony is a remarkable and truly inspiring leader. I've had the privilege to work with Tony professionally on a website project in the past with TBK Creative, and I've been able to sit down with Tony and really talk life on a few occasions. Just a very, very inspiring man to be around. He became CEO at Roma Moulding in the middle of the recession. The company at the time was successfully in business for over 20 years, but they were showing double-digit decreases in revenue in year-to-year comparables. Tony shares on this call exactly what he and his team did to turn the company around. We discuss the key steps in purposefully developing corporate culture in an organization. And I can say, in my experience, Tony is probably one of Canada's foremost authorities on corporate culture. Tony shares how he involved all 150 or so employees in the development of the company's core values, that most companies don't want to be that inclusive out of fear of just juggling all those opinions. But Tony was able to do this, and he shares the process that Roma Moulding went through to be able to successfully complete that task, which is now a real lifelong type of process for and plan for Roma Moulding. Tony goes over how they've moved from largely offline print-based media to online media for most of their marketing. He also shares the keys behind producing really great content that truly makes a difference for its audience, blogging, videos, etc. If you've ever watched any of Tony and Roma Moulding's videos, you'll know exactly what I mean. They did a recruitment video a couple months back that I was completely compelled to share myself and my social networks. They were extremely good at this area of marketing, and Tony shares some great nuggets on how to become even better content producers within your organization. So really take a lot of notes there. Quite frankly, we cover a lot on this call. To create a bit of context for the call, I want to share a paragraph type quote that Tony just sort of organically shared during the call. And again, I want to share this to sort of lead this call off and create some context. Quote unquote, I try to use unconventional methods to produce unconventional results. If you want conventional, normal results, keep doing the normal, mundane things you're doing, and I can guarantee you the results you get won't change. But it's when you go into the unconventional, the out of the box, the oh my God, I think you're crazy kind of methods. It's only then you can propel the unconventional results. That quote there from Tony Gareri should create some nice context and allude you to what is about to occur over the next hour or so. So grab a pen and paper, take lots of notes, and enjoy the call.
All right. So Tony, thank you for, first of all, being here, and welcome to the call.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Okay. So maybe just as a starting piece, Tony, to acquaint our listeners a little bit more with you in Roma Moulding, can you explain more about who you are and what you do?
So my name is Tony Gareri, and I have the privilege and honor of leading an incredibly, insanely great group of people. And my role here is Chief of WOW, or CEO. We have some fun titles here at our company, and Chief of WOW really stands for setting that bar from good to great to WOW, and being able to play in that sandbox with people who play at that level is what drives me every day.
Yeah, and I want to get into a little bit about some things. You and I and TBK and Roma, they did some work in the past And I want to share some stories about your culture kind of from my team's perspective, because we've had the honor of being at your location. So there's some unique things that you're doing there at Roma Moulding that you don't see everywhere else. But just before we kind of go down that path of like talking corporate culture and stuff, can you explain just a little bit more about some of the basics behind Roma Moulding? What type of business are you? What do you guys sell? Like just some of the basics, and then also how you came to be CEO, because I find that's also a very fascinating story.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Roma Moulding, when you think molding, people automatically think of cornice molding. In our industry, molding is frames, and we're actually the world's happiest framing company. So we manufacture and distribute picture frames all over the world, and we manufacture those in Italy. So we have facilities in Italy, part of which we have ownership in, that we work with these insanely great artisans who've been doing it for 4 or 5 generations, whether it's carving frames or things of that nature. We bring those over to North America and distribute those to the world, to framers, frame shops, galleries, and various different venues, whether it's hospitality or whatever it may be. So many of the products we sell, whether you know it or not, are potentially hung in your home, and they can be hung in the form of an artwork, photography, and or even mirrors. So when you're brushing your teeth, it's probably a Roma frame. Yeah. And so that's a space we get to play in. It really is an artistic space. We have great partners who have been long-standing with us, and this year just happens to be our 30th anniversary. So we're really stoked about that. And our birthday was September 12th. And so we're really happy about where we're at. As far as my coming to be, I graduated university back in 1999. I went to York. I did a great program there, and I came into the family business. I think my dad gave me the Friday off, and Monday morning I was right into work. There was really no negotiation. It was you're coming to work. So I had been working all my life. Within the framing business. Kids went to summer camps and art camps and whatever you may call it. I went to framing camp every year. I never knew anything but picture frames. So just to give you context. And so I came to work at the company, and I've always loved it. It's been in my blood. I just enjoy working with the products. And started out in the marketing department as a coordinator, then slowly moved my way up to marketing leader or marketing manager, and then moving into the sales capacity. And then, lo and behold, I became vice president of the company, and my father was CEO. And we've gone through some turbulent times, as many of us have, with September 11th, that being in 2001. We weathered that storm relatively well. There was probably a dip of 10% or so, but we came out relatively unscathed. And then we had 2005 and 6. Those were really great years. And then we all know the infamous 2008, 2009 global financial crisis. And that one really hit us. And we were down month over month in August, 30%. Okay. And that really sent a shock wave not only through our company but through the industry. It was it was a challenging time. And so my father, being the leader at the time, reverted back to the ways of what he knew worked in the past, and that was a more authoritarian style leadership. It was, do it my way or the highway. And slowly through osmosis, me being vice president, it was a do or die. So I became that leader, unfortunately. And in that type of leadership, the great people don't stick around. The great people actually leave because they don't thrive in that environment. There's no trust in that environment. There's no autonomy and things of that nature. And so unfortunately, I really hated what I had become. I looked around. I didn't have any friends or any acquaintances, and it was just a bunch of people working on stuff, very disjointed. And I hit an all-time low. And I remember vividly, walked into my father's office, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I just don't love what I'm doing. I don't love who I've become. I'm not inspired by myself, let alone inspiring others. And I've just had it. And I grew up with the adage that if work didn't hurt, you weren't working, but it hurt so much that it actually cracked me, and I was out. And I was at a trade show, and I was flying a ridiculous amount of flights throughout the year. We were at a trade show, and someone handed me a book, and that book was Delivering Happiness by Tony Gareri, one of the books I often share with colleagues and friends. And it was a total paradigm shift for me. So here's a gentleman who started a business online. It was an online shoe store.
Yeah.
And what was gonna propel that business wasn't gonna be some killer strategy. It was gonna be a strategy on culture. And it's such an incredible idea. If you make your people happy first within your company, they in turn will make your customers happy, and your customers will just want to come back for more of that happiness, and then that pinwheel just keeps spinning. And I didn't believe it, and so I went there in Las Vegas and looked at it firsthand, and I was hooked right there. And that's when I came back and I said, although this is going to be very difficult, it's going to be so worthwhile, and I can do this here at Roma, and these people are ready, and that's when we took on the journey.
Wow. Okay. So before I'm going to ask you some questions about culture in a minute,
Sure.
But just for the people listening, just to sort of break down a couple bullet points on Roma Moulding as a company. So you would classify, just sort of as a short description, as a picture molding manufacturer.
Yeah, the art and framing industry. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and you're on the manufacturing end, and then you sell. Then your customer is independent dealers throughout the world.
Throughout the world, but primarily North America. We focus in on there, but we sell into South America and parts of Europe as well.
Okay, and approximately how many independent dealers do you have?
We have approximately 5,000.
Okay, about 5,000. Okay. And then how many employees does Roma Moulding have in total?
Approximately 150.
150, okay. Okay, and that's useful then for if you're listening right now, you can now really put in your mind this company, medium-sized manufacturer, big dealer network around the world, predominantly in North America. We're speaking to the CEO of the company, and we're going to be talking about corporate culture, and we're going to be talking about how Tony and his team markets Roma Moulding so they fulfill on business objectives. So I think that's what we're going to be sort of diving in here in a couple minutes. All right, so corporate culture. Let's, Tony, start there. It's something that is, I think, very easy to say. It's very easy to say, yeah, we have good corporate culture or whatever, but I don't think, in my experience, a lot of businesses focus on it for whatever reason. So can you explain to me, like, what really corporate culture is, and why you think what's it done for Roma Moulding? So what it is, what's it done for Roma Moulding, and then third, why you think most businesses don't focus on it too much. I think businesses typically get to, like, oh, this is our mission statement, this is our vision, this is our core values, but I think there's something even more here with what you're speaking about with corporate culture. So what is it? How does it help Roma Moulding, and why do you think other people have a difficult time with it as a business?
I love the way you've shaped those. So first off, I just want to state that all companies have it, whether they think they do or they don't. Mm-hmm. Some wish they didn't have the one they have, and others really cherish the one they have. And in short, company culture is really the soul of the organization. And an easier way put, it's really the personality of the organization. How does the personality show up? How does it show up from a B2B or B2C channel? So how is the company being? But more importantly, what's the soul or personality that's showing up?
Okay.
And that's the difference. So if you get two different companies, how's the soul or personality of Google versus the soul and personality of Microsoft? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And so what we harnessed early on, as I just indicated, our personality of who we were, prior to me being CEO, was something very different, completely polar opposite of what we are today. And so how we harness company culture is, we believe it's everything. And Drucker, it goes on record by saying culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I so believe that. because who you're being, who you're actually showing up as, is what people see. That's the authenticity of the brand. And so for us, when you know, how we harness that is we actually have created a committable core values. And as you've indicated, a lot of people have core values. And what we did within the organization early on is we did a core value exercise. And we actually surveyed everybody in the company and asked, you know, what do you value as a value system within, you know, yourself? What do you value? Do you value love? Do you value hatred? We got all kinds of different things. One that sticks out the most was we had some folks early on saying, you know, I value an eye for an eye. And I said, okay, I've got to make sure I don't, you know, get around that person. And it was all done anonymously, so you didn't have to know who it was. But so once we went through a whole core value exercise, which takes about a few months to figure out, we came up with, you know, 10 committable core values. So think of core values as a subset of who's showing up, and then breaking that down into bite size so people can understand it. And so we have 10 committable core values, and why I reiterate committable is because we're going to hire and fire based on the core values. We actually have two sets of interviews, one being culture-based, one being skill-based. And we believe it's about a 60-40 split. 60% culture, so culture, do you fulfill, like do you live the core values of our company? Okay. And then the 40% is that active manager, do you fulfill or can you fulfill on the skills and expectations, you know, that we need you to do? Because, you know, truth be told, I can teach you how to chop a frame, or I can teach you how to do a marketing strategy, or even do a drip marketing campaign, but I can't teach you how to be humble, or I can't teach you how to love learning, or I can't teach you, you know, integrity. Those are things you either have or you don't have. And so when you start building on the foundation of values, something starts to show up. Now, a culture-based company takes time to foster this. So this is a 5 to lifetime. It's a 5-year to lifetime strategy. So if you want to adopt something within 3 months, this is probably not the strategy for you. And so now 3.5 years in at Roma, the culture is starting to get deeply rooted. We're starting to have rituals. And think of countries and their cultures. The Italian culture has a certain way of greeting someone when they, you know, see each other. They kiss on 2 cheeks. You know, North American culture, a little different. And those are developed over time, and that's why it takes about 5 years to really have a strong-rooted corporate culture. And so how we've leveraged it, it's important to share, is that, you know, we want to do business with people who align with our values, because it's just easy at that point. And that's why we worked together, actually. So whether it's, you know, supplier, vendor, distributor, or whether it's a vendor like you who was helping us on a great project, one of which I'm very proud of, you possess the same values. So when we showed up, that 60% is already off the table. So it's already, we're speaking the same language. And then within that, it just becomes easy. We can share with you, you know, the intricacies of our business.
If you interview like you did all your employees and you say, you know, what do you value? I'm sure you have some other questions, but, you know, one of the questions I'm sure surrounds what do you value? Start to write that stuff down. You're then going to get back 100, 150 responses. What's the process from there? Like, how do you then kind of take this mishmash of and very diverse opinions, right, from 100, 150 people, and distill it down into, okay, these are going to be our 10 now moving forward for 5 years to a lifetime?
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty daunting, and that's why it does take a commitment. It's about a 4 to 6 month commitment. So, you know, you survey 150 people, and you get a huge list. And I think the list was about 160 different values. But then what we do is we put them in buckets, or we put them, see, because someone could say love 3 different ways. Okay, yeah. And believe it or not, you know, as human beings, as different as we are, when you're asked what you value, we're not that different. And I think that's the most rewarding part about the core value exercise, because at the core, I personally believe people are good. go on record to prove that, but it's a belief. It's what's in my gut is telling me that at the core people are good. So they show up relatively the same,
Okay.
and then you create those buckets. So say you have 160 different values, you put those in buckets, and you try to create them so that love is love, not love and kindness and fair. So you try to categorize those so that bucket would be love. And so from 160, then you bring it down to about 50.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you have 50, you send those out again and ask people to comment on those values and ask them to pick their top 25. And so that 160 starts to become 50, starts to become 25, starts to become 18, and then you can settle in on whatever you want. We decided 10. It's an easy number. It's 10 fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Other people have done 5. Other people have done 12. I mean, it varies.
Mm-hmm.
And why the 4 to 6 months? It gives people to digest it, because you put it out, and then they might have had a bad day, or they might have had a really good day. So we try to space it out so that it doesn't affect the last day that we just did. Because if you do it every day, it kind of loses its luster.
If there's someone listening on the call, let's say a CEO of a company, and he's saying, I'm interested in understanding this, very deliberate planning and implementation of corporate culture more, what's one resource that you would recommend that woman or man goes and checks out after this podcast?
I would say one amazing resource would be going to Delivering Happiness, or going to Zappos Insights, and that's zapposinsights.com. I think they do a great job of reviewing what that is, and then consequently, if you're in the area, we do host our own culture insights here at Roma Moulding. So you can go on Roma Moulding, MOULDING.com, and go on our culture section, and you can actually have a free guided tour of our facility, and or if you want to learn more, we'll create some breakout sessions and actually help coach you on delivering this type of culture.
That's amazing. Do you have that like as a URL or a subpage?
Absolutely.
Tony, so when we get this up online, I'll provide a hyperlink on the page for people watching it so that it's accessible for them. And I just want to mention something for people listening in case they've never heard of Zappos or Tony Shea before. The results are really in the pudding, because Tony over the years built that little shoe company at one point to a business that does over $1 billion per year in annual revenue. And subsequently, he sold it a few years ago, I believe, to Amazon.com.
That is correct, and when they actually and right now they're well over $2 billion in just over 13 years.
And he's still involved in it, isn't he? He didn't just cash out and sitting on the beach somewhere. Like, he's still heavily involved in the company.
Absolutely, yeah. He doesn't. His whole thing is he doesn't pull a salary, so he gets $1 per salary.
Yeah.
But he truly isn't doing it for that. I mean,
and all the shoes he needs.
Exactly.
I'll take $1 and lifetime of shoes.
That's it.
Okay. I actually am not present. I don't have the list in front of me of your 10 values. Do one of those values happen to be transparency or authenticity, like some kind of term around that?
Yeah, I mean, we one of our core values is to be real and live in integrity.
Okay.
And I think that says so much. Integrity in itself, in my eyes, is the foundation of anything you build, or any relationship, or any building. Think of a building, the foundation or the building blocks is what I call the integrity component. And being real, I put those two together because don't try to be someone who you're not. It's too much work, and B, people will, you can smell that like 10 miles away. So if you're being yourself and you're living in integrity, anything is possible.
I brought that up because I actually want to share from my vantage point an example of Roma Moulding's corporate culture in action. So what Tony does, and correct me if anything's a little bit off with what I'm going to say, Tony, what Tony and his team puts on every quarter is, I believe it's called an all hands. Can you, Tony, what's it called?
Yeah, we do it 3 times a year. It's an all hands meeting.
All hands meeting 3 times a year, so one every 4 months. And so what that is Tony and his team actually conducts somewhat of a presentation or live webcast, if you will, where they literally speak about industry news, how Roma Moulding did in the previous month with certain key success factors, and what's the commitment and goals moving forward. And overall, it's very inspiring and insightful as well. And I remember personally watching one of these meetings that you conducted through Facebook. So you had it streaming in through Facebook about a year ago or so, maybe it was about a year and a half ago. And I remember at the time when I was watching, and it was several of you, it wasn't just you speaking, with some of your colleagues, and I actually think it was one of your colleagues speaking about something to do with product delivery, something to do with the manufacturing side. And you were looking at like every month we need to do better. This is kind of like how he was saying it, and then you had metrics to measure better, and I think it had to do with like accuracy, like fulfilling on orders in an accurate sense. If I think back, and I just remember watching that, and I was like, companies usually aren't that public about that kind of stuff, to really publicly hold themselves accountable like that. And I thought, you know what, that really says a lot about who this company is, and I really think speaks to what you guys are committed to as a business and the culture that you've created in such a short period of time. So I wanted to kind of just give that as an example for everybody listening. If you're saying, okay, yeah, values, I get it. What's an example of that showing up in real life from maybe someone, other than Tony, who's seen it, and that is something that I've seen it really come to life, the work you're doing there.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. Thank you for bringing that up. Core value number 9 is deliver transparent, open, honest communication, and talk about living the values. The litmus test for us on anything we do is, does it fulfill on the values of our company, and then does it envelope up into our mission to move, inspire, and wow. And when we started these all hands meetings, they were very small. They were 45 minutes, and today they're over 2 hours. And we actually shut down our company, so the entire company is shut down. We're about 60 people live here and growing, and we're about another, I would say, 50 or 60 in the U.S., if not more, watching. And now we're up to about 350 viewers live. So we do stream this live over the internet for anybody to see. And why we did this is not only for our own sake of sharing it internally with our teams and our partners, but our retailers are seeing this, and our retailers' friends are seeing this. And so something that has started so small is growing. And this year's all hands meeting is on this next all hands meeting is on November 20th. And our goal is to have more guests show up live than actual Roma team members. So, I mean, the last one was our biggest one ever. We had about 20 or 25 visitors. We want to get over 60 this year. And it keeps growing, and the information that we share, like you said, is about metrics and things like that, and what did we do, what did we say we're going to do, what didn't we do, and how we're succeeding. And for the viewers, they're getting what's possible for their companies as well. And for me, the biggest reward is them coming up after and just saying, you've opened up a door for me, or I'm going to take that nugget back to my company. I think if we all work together like that, I think we just make this world a better place for us.
And I want to point out something that I picked up in listening to what you just said there, Tony. If you're listening right now, and thinking about corporate culture, this is not something, I really get the sense with Tony and Roma Moulding, this is not just something that what they're just doing is creating happiness and fun and all this transparency. And they are doing that, but there also are some objectives still that are in place as a business, because something you said there, Tony, was you guys have a goal that there's actually more people attending at that next meeting than Roma Moulding employees. So I just wanted to point that out, because we're still all running businesses, and it's not that Tony's deviating from still having objectives and goals for the business. It's just that there's a different way in which he's going about achieving those objectives and goals.
Yeah, I would say that would be spot on. And what's important when you go online and you view our videos, or our all hands meetings.
Yeah.
It is not organic. It is strategic. And like anything great, I mean, Disney World is the happiest place on earth. But let me tell you, there's an army of people behind the scenes making it very strategic,
Yeah.
but delivering that wow experience. And we're no different. And
Yeah.
I'm happy you said that because it does look like a lot of fun, but there definitely is KPIs. So as hard as we play is as hard as we work. And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's really fun.
Everything, you still live in a world that there's cost for everything still. We haven't figured out a way to get out of that.
Absolutely.
So have to do your checks and balances. Okay, Tony, I know that we could probably spend 2 hours talking about culture alone, and I know I had some other questions previous there about culture, but I actually want to kind of deviate now, and I want to go down another street with you, and I want to speak a little bit more about marketing. And yeah, and what I'd like to know, maybe we can start out at maybe a little more high level. How does Roma Moulding do marketing? How at the end of the day does does Roma Moulding do several millions of dollars every year in revenue? How does money come into your business?
So from a marketing standpoint, revenue is generated with our retailers because we give samples out. So how it works is that you bring in your piece of art to a retailer. They take our sample, put it on the frame. You look at it, or on the artwork, you look at it, and they call us up and order it based on what specifications you need. Now, what has them pulling Roma versus some other competitor is the marketing. And for us, for a long time, what we've been really stuck on was traditional marketing. So a lot of print. We were very, very heavy on print marketing, so collateral materials, catalogs. I mean, we built the industry's finest tabletop calendar catalog, which was simply beautiful, hardcover. I mean, it was something that people would show. But you and I both know the minute you print it, it becomes outdated because things change, and you add some, you delete some. We were in very traditional print. So in industry magazines and things of that nature, well, we've shifted away from that. And what we decided to do was share who we were, or share who we are as a company. And I think that's so important. That transparency has helped people gravitate to us versus someone else. And so why someone's purchasing from Roma is because they align with our values and mission more than just what we have to sell. And I think Simon Sinek says it best. You don't want to do business with people who want what you have. You want to do business with people who believe in why you show up. And I think that's so important. So instead of just having customers, we're looking more for partnerships and raving fans, people that are deeply connected with us. And that's what we're finding the marketing to be. How are we connecting deeply, creating emotional connections with our partners versus just showing up in a print ad like everybody else? I hope does that answer a little bit of your question?
Yeah, so what I'm definitely hearing is you deviated from print, you've gone more online as a result.
Absolutely.
And so could you maybe go through with everybody listening, what are those sort of tactical bullet points that you do online? Like you have a website, for instance.
Absolutely.
Like what are all those sort of things that you or your marketing team needs to certainly be thinking about producing content for, et cetera?
So definitely website is first and foremost. We're gaining a lot of eyeballs on our website monthly. Our website traffic is up over last year about 20 to 25% alone.
Okay.
And that's increasing based on the relevant, what's the sticky power that we're putting there.
Okay.
And we're always looking what's relevant to our partners. So how-to videos is definitely something that keeps the folks coming back. How to hang a picture frame. I mean, I always get that question: how high, how low? I get people calling me on my cell phone, my friends. Do I put it into the stud of the wall? Do I not? Those how-to videos are very important. We do a lot of culture videos, and what culture videos share is who we are and how we show up. I think some of the other things we do are a lot of seminars online. So we do a lot of group seminars or Google Hangouts or whatever that may be to connect with our people.
Would that be, Tony, for your independent dealers, the seminars, or would that be for your staff?
It's internal and external, so it could be both. Again, sharing value. So what we're trying to do online is how do we give them as much value as we can. The blog has really created a lot of that sticky power, and the blog really is hints and tips and tricks on culture and leadership that you too can adopt within your company. So that's having our fans keep coming back and allowing that interaction, that engagement with the audience. Yeah, and I would say video, we're very heavy in video.
Yeah,
video allows the printed word to come off the page, and it allows, in my opinion, the personality to show up. You know, if I write something or if I say something, very different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that we're pushing heavily. I mean, we have a full-time videographer on staff. All he does is produce content for web.
Yeah, and I want to say something about the how-to video type concept in general, or if you're producing how-to type content, whether it's video or text or audio, for people listening. I like to compare it, you know, when you're looking at a website, something to think about is that not everybody that goes to your website is going to purchase your product or reach out to you for that free consultation, let's say if you're in professional services. And you'll know that because if you have several thousand people every month going to your site, you'll know that several thousand people probably don't reach out to you as a result. So there's always a very big percentage of people that simply don't reach out. And so what a lot of websites we see, the amount of people either buying or reaching out is somewhere in that kind of 0.5 to 3% range, give or take. But that's a very small percentage. So when you, and so we have to recognize is there's going to be this other 97% of people there. And then what I like to say is about, give or take, every business is going to be different, but about half of those people probably will never buy your product for whatever reason. They could be actually suppliers, they could be strategic partners, they could not even be in your marketplace and they just found you for some reason. But then that still leaves you with another portion of people, and that's actually a pretty big percentage of your website traffic, and that's people that is your target audience. So like in Tony's case, that can be people that could be art dealers or potential independent dealers, consumers perhaps doing research. There are people that are can buy Roma Moulding's products, but they're not ready to buy right now. And so when you produce content, you're still helping them out because although they might not be ready to buy right now, they're not far enough down that sales funnel, they still have problems and they're still doing research. So these how-to videos I think is very fascinating, and I think a lot of businesses have not picked up on this yet. And I know you guys do a great job, Tony, with it. So when it comes to actually producing these videos and any kind of content that's educational, what process do you guys go through in even determining what type of content? What's the need that actually fulfills on? How do you actually come up with that kind of approach? Because I think a lot of people get stopped with their content strategies because they say, oh, I don't know what to write about or I don't know what to produce. So do you guys have anything that you can share in that area for the listeners?
Yeah, I think what's important, first and foremost, I want to just, if I can step back 1 second, what helps us also is the whole social media channel and marketing through social media channels. So whether that being have a YouTube channel, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, it varies by business and what your viewers are looking at. So definitely the social part has helped that. And so to answer your question now, we use our social channels because you're absolutely right. We have maybe 7,000, or 6,500 or so fans on our Facebook page. Not all of them necessarily purchase from us, and they can come to us for various different things. It could be decorating tips. It could be they think we're fun. It could be our partners. It could be our partners' friends and family. So very diverse. What we usually do out there is we actually ask our customer's customer, what's a commonly asked question that you would like us to answer for you? And I think that's so important. And I think a lot of businesses are fearful of answering their customers' questions. And a great example of that would be, I think McDonald's has done that. They've answered the questions their customers are asking that otherwise they didn't want to answer. and it's in their recent campaign around, did you know what's in our Chicken McNuggets? So they're actually answering the question because people are thinking what's in that Chicken McNugget. The minute you can put that to the forefront and share that authentically and transparently, again, in my opinion, it builds more fans. It builds more connection. It builds deeper emotional connections with your brand. And yes, you're right. Maybe they won't purchase from you today, but when the opportunity arises, you're going to be the first one there.
You guys produce a lot of content out of your office compared to most businesses your size. And I think you produce really good content. There was a video, yeah, and I say that very genuinely. There was a video you guys produced a short while back that caught my attention when you were hiring for a marketing manager or some kind of marketing role, and I loved it. And it was Tony. I'm not going to be able to reenact it too well, but it was Tony basically walking around the office with the camera as like kind of like a POV, like a point of view type of thing with the camera, and it was following him, and you had all the right words, and it was very inspiring, right? And it showed people, fun, culture, right? The culture you guys have created in the background that really came to life, and it was a very inspiring video, and probably attracted some interest from people as a result, whoever saw that video. I know I shared it on Facebook and Twitter, etc. Do you have any tips to share with people listening to this call? These are going to be largely marketing coordinators, CEOs, executives, like marketing executive type positions who might be looking at content marketing, might be studying it, might even be, blogging right now or creating a video series, but they want to do it even better. They want to impact their audience even more. Do you have any tips that would help businesses sort of in that position?
Yeah, and I definitely can share in that, and thank you for sharing. We had a ball, by the way, with the director of marketing role, and not only did we have a great time producing it, we had a great time interviewing the candidates because once they watched that video, they didn't even know what to expect, and we had a flood, and I mean a flood of candidates, which was such a huge success. And you're right, it was being authentic and truthful, being creative. So to answer your question, I got this from Gary Vaynerchuk, and I think he's incredible on social media, and he really talks about social media. And so for all the marketers out there, I have my iPhone here, and this is how much time people have to view you online. That's about it. So it's kind of and
Oh, Tony, before you do that, in case someone can't see the audio, that was Tony swiping his finger on his iPhone, just in case. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Tony.
So yeah, the analogy is get your iPhone, put your finger on it like you're going through a feed in Facebook, and it's swipe, 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 swipe. So you got literally 1 second to capture someone's attention. And I think, what I try to do, and I don't think I've perfected it, but what I try to do is create really relevant content that can really help people. And I try to really create content that can either enrich their lives, that can either inspire them into action, that can actually help them think differently or move some conventional thinking that they've had. And I really try to hone in on that, because if you start with what you want to say, I find it's very hard. I try to start from the reverse. What do they want to hear, and what problem can I help them overcome? And so that, at the beginning is what I do. And then, everybody's style is different. I like to have fun, definitely have fun with things. I don't take myself too serious. So one of my most recent blogs was Burn the Boats, and come up with something intriguing that people can relate to and that can actually catch your attention. So Burn the Boats was my last blog, and it talked about, if you really want to win, burn the boats. What do you mean, burn the boats?
Yeah.
And then it gets them thinking and gets them in there. And it's fun. It's whimsical. It's easy. It's short. And there are a few nuggets that you can really take into action.
Did that play off of, I never read that article, did that play off the famous traveler who burnt all the ships and then what forced his team to basically go to shore because there's no going back?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I think at that point, what stops us is always that, okay, well, plan B. Well, how about if there is no plan B? How about if there's only plan A? Let's kill it. Let's figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. You had, on that note, a cover photo on your Facebook one time. Tony and I are friends on Facebook, so that's actually how we got in touch, I think, the first time, which is a story in and of itself. But you had a cover photo on Facebook that said something like, instead of thinking about all the reasons why not, think about that one reason why so. Remember that?
Yeah.
Oh,
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think and I think as CEOs, being a CEO or top level leader is oftentimes a lonely place, and I think that's important that I put that out there, and that's why it's so important to listen to these types of podcasts or networking events or anything of that nature, because sometimes when you're sitting up there, it's often hard to share some of your views because some of your views are crazy, and depending on who you talk to, they might really think you need to go that you might need some help. But when you're with other CEOs or other leaders that you can bounce ideas off, what happens with me is I tend not to think of how I can't do it, but rather how it can work. Because I think as our DNA would have it, is we always try to figure out the ways in which it can't work, and very few of us just figure out the ways it can.
Wow.
And in the can, that's where everything happens. That's where the power lies. Because what's present in the can't is the fear. So, oftentimes, and I'll share what happens with me, I'll go to a leadership conference or event, whether it's here in Toronto or Silicon Valley or New York, wherever it may be. I go there feeling pumped. I sit down, I listen to what people are doing, and believe me, there's some leaders doing incredible things in the world. I'm feeling stoked. By the time I leave, I just think I'm not playing a big enough game. And then suddenly my challenges or problems at hand either evaporate or go away or easily are overcome because I try to challenge on a bigger level. They say how do you fix a problem? Get a bigger one. I'm sure you've heard that one.
Yeah, right? Sure.
So,
Yeah, and I believe in also just trying to keep yourself in your mind around those kind of positive messages. And I wonder how much of that is also, if you've heard of like mirror neurons. Literally how the person is being, it's actually uncontrollable, at least in the kind of a reactive, quick way. You end up at like a biological, like a chemistry kind of level, end up being somewhat like that person. So I too, as a habit now, I'm really trying to invest a lot of my time, my spare time, into listening to really rich industry podcasts from very smart people and trying to consume as much media as I can. I don't always get a lot of time to sit down and listen to the sort of the hour and a half type stuff. So something that's helped me is I every night before bed, and I rarely miss it, is I'll take a podcast that I really like and I'll listen to 10 minutes. And then the next night I'll do another 10 minutes. And then the next night I'll do another 10 minutes. And after a few months, you've gone through like 10, 20 hours.
Absolutely.
And that's been one of my kind of secrets in my own sort of keeping up with everything and personal development.
Yeah, and I'll just I want to just share this one before we move on. And it was a quote I seen and then kind of twisted to be a little bit unique for myself. And as CEOs and leaders out there, I try to use unconventional methods produce unconventional results. And if you want conventional, normal results, keep doing the normal, mundane things you're doing, and I can guarantee you your results won't change. But it's when you go in the unconventional, the out of the box, the oh my God, I think you're crazy type of methods, it's only then that you can actually propel something unconventional as far as results are concerned, like crazy results.
I agree.
I just want to share that.
Yeah. So, Tony, there might be now, let's say, a marketing director or someone that oversees marketing who wants to do a better job with organizing their content marketing strategy. They get it. They've read a bunch on it. They want to get into, let's say, video or blogging on a regular basis. What kind of tools or processes have you found works very well in keeping everything organized? Because it's not just about producing a blog. I forget where I heard this. It might have been in Epic Content Marketing by Joe Pulizzi. easy, but there was some study where they looked at corporate blogs, and the average corporate blog out there right now has only 5 posts ever.
Wow.
So there's a lot of I'm not surprised. So there's a lot of groups that start blogs, but they don't treat it necessarily like a publishing company. They don't treat it, and they lack that consistency to follow through for whatever reason. Do you have any tips on how someone listening can get in the game, organize themselves, create some processes so that things get done over time and this material gets produced?
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I got some great advice early on when I was developing my blog. And everybody thinks the biggest thing about blogging is content, and it is. I mean, if you don't have great content, then no one's going to listen. I think content is kind of like taking a shower in the morning. If you want people to be around you, shower, and then maybe, people will be around, but that's not enough. And one of the main things, and you touched upon it, one of the main things that I'm constantly aware of, as well as my team, is consistency.
Okay.
And I think once you develop your viewership, once you have your audience, and how to develop that audience is don't have them keep guessing when your stuff is coming out. Really give them advance notice, or let them know it's every second Thursday of the month something comes out, or twice a month on Thursday, or whatever the case may be. I'll give you a quick example. My wife subscribes to a astrology, horoscope-ish type of thing, and I'm not really into it, but she is in school. And she goes there religiously. So this lady actually, produces it once a month. And when she doesn't produce it, my wife is all freaked out. So she's like, what happened to her? Did something happen? I haven't heard from her in a week. Or she'll say, it's been 2 weeks. And sometimes it loses that credibility. So I would say that level of consistency is second to having great content, but make sure you deliver that content. And one of the tools I use, pretty low tech, is ensure that I spend enough white time planning for that session to happen, as well as have someone help you keep accountability, meaning have your calendar outputs filled for those sections for the duration of the year, or whatever your duration of your blog is, or whatever, whether it's a blog or video or things of that nature. Because I think consistency is king, so that your viewers know when your content is coming out, and it creates credibility. I think it's important. Someone that's doing a great job, first of all, yourself. I think you've been doing a great job with your podcast and keeping your viewers and your listeners and audience, aware of when you're dropping your segments and sessions. And someone else that does that equally well is Gary Vaynerchuk, and you can check him out as well. I just think the consistency is king. It could be overlooked, but it's king.
I'm going to share a story about Gary Vaynerchuk because you brought his name up, and it's very consistent with your consistency message. What a lot of people don't realize, and I've heard Gary tell the story, and I'm paraphrasing. He started, I think his first kind of foray into content marketing was his Wine TV, which is a YouTube channel, and he would consistently produce these 10, 15-minute sort of reviews on wine. And I don't remember how often it was. It was either every day or every week, whatever. But he tells a story where he was like doing it over a year, and he was like over 150 of these things of ththese 10, 15-minute videos. Every video was like 150 views, 164 views. 129 views. But he kept doing it, and he kept doing it, and he kept doing it. And then one day, Conan O'Brien's office called him and invited him on the show. And the rest was history. He actually went on the Conan O'Brien show. And that actually was his big break. And I think people and oftentimes marketers who are doing this content thing, they see these big breakthroughs. So then they get involved, and they hope that they can have that same breakthrough. But what they're not recognizing is how much consistent work, blood, sweat, tears, went into this stuff every week, sometimes every day, so that one day, many years out, you're an overnight success.
Absolutely.
And I remember that, and I like that perspective because it reminds me, if you actually are, I said blood, sweat, and tears, but if you actually are just producing the same thing every day, it's actually oftentimes not that hard either. But you just you got to do it consistently. So I completely agree, Tony. So now you said Tony, you take time for what you call white time. Now is that actually like a block of time where you're producing the content? Is that what that is, or are you researching? What's white time?
Well, I used to call it Tony time, but that was a bit cliche-ish. So I call it white time now, and white time is really a space where I actually can brainstorm the blog or the video that I'm going to create, and it's usually done with a team member. So a team member will be there, and we'll actually use a recording. So it will be recorded because sometimes the nuggets are in there as we just get the energy going. And it could be 1 hour, it could be an hour and a half, it could be 30 minutes, whatever works for you. And then we just talk about relevant things that our viewership or our audience would want to listen to. And in there, many times we get 2 or 3 blogs, or 2 blogs, or 2 video segments. And then from there, blocking a little bit more time again to create that content a little thicker or deeper, or maybe a little more juicier. So yeah, in essence, it's time blocked for the blog or for the video or for the podcast, whatever.
Okay. And then the second thing you had mentioned was accountability. Can you explain more about what that structure looks like for you and your team?
So accountability for me is so very important. So what we do is, I do this with a gentleman on our team. He's actually a master communicator. His title is actually Commander of Communication. So I told him to hold me accountable to the highest level. So even if even if I'm, in the killer econ meeting or whatever it may be, that I'm held accountable because my integrity is on the line at that place. And so he does an incredible job to make sure I'm in that room, as well as my assistant. She's my time ninja as well. So they're really animate on getting me in that room for that time. And knowing they're going to be there, I don't want to let them down either. So it helps having someone stand for your accountability.
Yeah. And from a system or a program perspective, do you have a calendar? What actual system does your team use to manage its editorial?
Well, yeah, I think we have a content calendar. In marketing, we have a shared wiki station where all the content is there and things of that nature. But we're all linked in with our calendars and things of that nature, so those alerts will come up and things like that. So.
Okay. When it comes to content marketing, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you think would make a real difference for the listeners in helping them grow their companies and fulfill on some business objectives using content marketing?
I think the power. I think people will still underestimate the power of social media, and the power in social media is not about selling stuff. It's about creating engaging relationships with your partners. And I think and by the way, I use the word partners rather than customers, because a partner doesn't necessarily buy right then. And I think social media gives your partners or customers the ability to see who you really are over a prolonged period of time. Because it's easy to put up an ad and then that ad runs for 6 months. But to have content every day through a social media feed isn't easy. And they start to see the personality or the true personality of the organization. So if you're running just all pictures every day, then that kind of gets boring. But when you can actually be real and authentic about what you're doing, share a success, share a milestone, be yourself, and never, ever, ever sell on Facebook or any social media platform. And then the reverse happens. You start getting fans, and they start coming in, not necessarily for what you have, but because of who you are and who you're being. And I think that's so important. I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, it's that old saying, consumers don't like being sold to, but they like to buy. And I think people forget that consumers will still buy at some point when they need to buy. It's a matter of who are they going to choose? Who do they know, like, and trust the most?
Absolutely.
And if they're seeing your content continually and it's engaging and valuable content, they're going to be thinking good of Roma Moulding, and they're going to be most importantly, thinking of you guys when that time comes.
Yeah, and I think the adage of, you got to give before you receive. So kind of times the give by 3. So give, and give, and then you can receive. And I think the more you give, I don't know the proper saying, it doesn't come to mind right now, but the more you give, the more you receive. And I think if your give is actually authentic and genuine, then your receive will be too.
So to summarize some of your tactics for marketing that you guys are really engaged in, you've really decreased the amount of print, sort of the offline traditional print cataloging. You have a website that you said is very core now to your business. Dealers, they can place orders now through that.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
That's an important note. You guys produce a lot of how-to videos, culture-based videos, seminars with dealers, both external and internal, but you use technologies for that, such as Google Hangout, which at TBK Creative, we're a big fan of Google Hangout as well. And for those wondering, the technology we're using for this call right now is GoToMeeting by Citrix, GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar. You guys have a blog. Active in social media, you said Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Did I miss anything there?
Pinterest.
Pinterest, yeah. Okay. And are you guys much into email marketing yet? Doing anything with marketing automation, anything like that yet?
We are, but we're in the midst of really honing in on that and making sure that content is going to that right readership at the right time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you're in sort of planning stage right now.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to start to wind things down here. We covered quite a bit in the last 50, 60 minutes or so. We had a real deep conversation about what culture is and how Tony's building. What did you say? The happiest. What was the term you used? The happiest manufacturing company in the world? What was the term?
Well, I'd like to say one of the happiest companies in the world.
Yeah.
And I'll be happy to be second to Walt Disney. So the second happiest company in the world.
Reasonable goal, and it's consistent with who you are because you're looking at the can and not the why not, as you said earlier. We also got into marketing. So here is a manufacturing company that's 30 years old, and how are they marketing today? And it sounds like extremely different than how they were marketing 10 years ago. What I'd like to do, sort of a wrap up, which I think is quite fun, is I'd like to do a lightning round of questions with you, Tony.
Great.
All right, and these are just fun, informative, certainly value-based answers I'm looking for here, but short, and they're just they're just on various topics, and just answer them however you wish.
Perfect.
All right, so there's going to be 8 of them.
Great.
One business book you'd recommend to colleagues.
Oh, it would have to be Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh.
All right, there it is. Okay, one fiction book that you'd recommend to friends.
A fiction book, I'd probably say some Chicken Soup for the Soul or something like that. I'm not really into fiction books, but...
Yeah. And Jack Canfield, that was a man who had to come over a lot of adversity too, because he tells a story that he had to pitch that to like 50 plus publishers.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, his stories were
one person said yes.
Exactly.
And sometimes that's all it takes. What time do you arrive at the office typically?
Oh, typically around 8 o'clock.
Okay. What time do you leave?
Ooh, it's between 5 and 6.
Okay. How many hours? So, because I know you probably work at home as well, like anybody these days. How many hours approximately do you work in a given week?
Oh boy, so I'm going to answer this a little unconventionally.
Sure.
I try to do it a little differently. So I try to do as much as I want, and it frees me up. But definitely, I'm that 8 to 5, 8 to 6 when it needs be. But when it doesn't, then that's okay too. And typically a little bit on the weekends. I really try to keep my recharge time for weekends.
How many total did you say?
Well, I think 8 to 6. So 8
in
to
a
5.
Given week. Like in a given week.
In a given week, probably 60 hours.
Okay, yeah, 60 hours, all right. How do you keep up with industry news? I know that's a hard thing for a lot of people because we all are short on time, whether it be, work life, personal life. How do you keep up with it all in terms of industry stuff?
I would definitely say I'm very selective on what I read, both industry and or, news media stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm very specific. So I get the news sent to me through, you know, um, through through Google or whatever it may be. I'm very selective. So it's primarily online. If that makes sense.
Okay, you're trying to limit the amount of kitten videos you're clicking on Facebook news feeds and focusing
Exactly.
your effort on stuff that's more valuable to you.
Exactly.
Okay.
So Google Alerts is my best friend, right?
Okay, Google Alerts, a technology tip for everybody out there. Email or phone guy and why when you want to get some information across?
Ooh. I like email. I like the written word, and I take my time when I'm writing my emails. And I think the written word allows people the opportunity to be in my mind and to explore what's being said on the page. Yeah, I really enjoy an email. I really do. And sometimes it's hard to say some of the nice things that are on our mind, but when it's on paper, it's sometimes easier.
As someone who I believe is a great verbal communicator, I'm surprised by that answer. And it's all good. I just wanted to mention that. I think you're a great verbal communicator as well. Yeah, email or phone guy, and why? Oh, we just covered that.
Yeah, we just had that one.
Yeah. I'm obviously going through these bullet point notes here. If you can impart, last one, Tony, if you can impart wisdom on the 20-year younger version of yourself. So I don't know if you want to share how old that would be with everybody listening. What would it be?
Yeah, so I am 36 years old, so 20 years younger would be a ripe age for me. What I would say, and what I do say to people 20 years younger than me is, do what you can to find out what you love in life. And I mean love, like love. Like you would do nothing else in the world but that. Figure out a way to monetize that and just over-deliver on it and kill it. So just keep over-delivering on whatever you love, and success will come your way. And success looks like happiness, and success looks like monetary as well.
Finding that passion first. And Tony, whenever I chat with you, whenever you're producing content, that passion, that's very unique, and there's no one like you in the world, really comes through. So I want you to know that. Yeah, you're welcome, man. I want to thank you for taking the time. Thank you for all the great content that you produce. Thank you for being a bit of an innovator here in Canada and really driving what's possible around corporate culture. You might not always get told, but people pay attention, and you're inspiring other groups around what's possible in this sort of new kind of way of doing business. So thank you for being that leader.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on the show. This was terrific. I love the insights, and I hope that through this, other people are taking the courage to do what they love and have the time of their life. Life is too short, and don't take yourself too serious. Have a shitload of fun, and just be yourself. I think that's my advice to the world.
Sounds like wonderful advice, Tony. What's one thing or two things that someone could do if they want to check out your work or get in touch with you?
I flash this up on every screen. If someone would like to get a hold of me direct, they can at T Gareri, that's TGARERI at Roma, ROMA, Moulding, MOULDING.com, or they can visit us at RomaMoulding.com, and they can click definitely on the culture section, and then through there is biographies of all our team leaders. And heck, if you really want to get in touch with me, sign up for a free tour, and we'll be sure to move, inspire, and wow you.
I think that's a completely reasonable and generous offer. All right, Tony, thanks for doing the call, buddy.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay, see ya.
Take care.